for songwriters out there are people that are working with other artists, and they don't have to. You can be at music school, and your friend says, "Hey, do you want to write for my project?" But it's really making sure that you capture who the person is, and it doesn't matter even if that person is not necessarily the strongest songwriter on earth. If they are willing to get in the room and accept the dare to suck rule, which is you can say anything, and if it's bad, we won't judge you, but something out of that can be great, then honoring who that person is important. The first example I'm thinking of is actually Jessica Simpson. And at the time that we wrote with you, she had already become, Newlyweds hadn't started yet, but she had already had a couple of hits. She had like, I Want to Love You Forever. And there was all this, it was like, you could see the rocket ship taking off. And she came to the studio with her mom, Tina, and she had recorded songs I had written with her before, but I hadn't met her. And we got along really nicely. And so I said to her, I said, well, you know, tell me, like, who are you? Like, talk about yourself. And she was like, well, you know, I'm just a Southern girl with my Levi's on and an open heart. And I was like, that's good. And then I started this, and that was, and that with you started. The real me is a Southern girl with her Levi's on and an open heart. And then she left and did a photo shoot somewhere. And then came back a couple hours later, and Andy Marvel, who I had written the song with as well, and I sat and wrote. And then she came back in, and that's really where that song started from. And actually, as a weird postscript, I was at an event that was honoring our mutual friend, Tom Pullman, and Jessica was there, and John Mayer was there. At the time, Jessica was married to Nick, and John came up to me, who's an incredible musician, and this is kind of the secret props that you get from other artists, and I guess he was like obsessing over this guitar part, which is pretty elaborate for a pop record, and he was like, what's the fingering on the whatever, and he went to Berkeley or whatever, you know, and he's an incredible guitarist, but I remember feeling real good about myself that day with this lick. That's like one of those secret paychecks that isn't in money, but you get from other artists. But that staying true and being honest is key. And there was actually, Pink and I wrote a song called The Truth About Love, which was the title of one of her records a couple albums ago. The lyric is, the truth about love is it comes and it goes. It's like all this, and it's actually pretty awesome. This list of all of the random things that define what love is. And she writes this line, the truth about love is the smelling of armpits. And I'm like, Alicia, okay, I get it, but I don't know. Yeah. And she's like, no, that's it. And she's, you know, for her fans that know Pink, she is who she is.
It's I
show how much I love her. But she and we were like jousting over this line. And I'm like, I don't know if you put the smelling of armpits in a record. And she was like, no, but that's why we put it in. And then I was like, okay, you know, she's the artist. And ultimately, it should be that way, that the artist should have their way, and she's earned the right. It's her name on it. So cut to years later, this album sold millions of copies. And hanging out with my friend, Atusa Rubinstein, who's like a visionary in and of herself, and started Cosmo Girl. And she's telling me about that song, and she's obsessed with that song. And her favorite line in the song is the smelling of armpits. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like but even then, it's also indicative of how important it is that the artist, that if you're writing with an artist, their narrative and their voice has to be in it. And you should really insist upon it.
How important when you're working with an artist is that they understand that they are a brand? And do you help them develop that?
Well, I think, first of all, Truth About Love is like a track. This guy, David Schuler, and I worked on the track, and he did brilliant production work on it with me. So it's less of like a strummy song. But I think the brand, I would say for artists, is really knowing what do you stand for? What can your fans, whether they're 100 or 1,000,000, what can they count on you for? And are you willing to be consistent and uncompromising about that value system that you stand for and that they count on you for? And what makes Pink's career so powerful, and frankly, if you look at any of the biggest stars, whether it's Sting or Kanye or Jay-Z or Beyonce, or you go across the board, or David Guetta, their culture, right? Well, who they are, what they stand for, and what their fans can count on them for, has always stayed consistent. It's never changed. And if it's changed, that change is part of what they stand for. Madonna, Lady Gaga's similarly. It's like, is that how many lives can I get is also something that someone can stand for.
So what you're saying is when an artist has an authentic relationship with their audience, that they go on a journey together.
Right.
I think that's amazing.
So with her, I think part of it is her desire to speak up and out of what matters to her. And she's given unbelievable speeches, accepting awards and about empowerment. But we wrote Dear Mr. President in New York. We were at the Magic Shop studio in Soho. And this was during the Iraq War. Was like, it seems like Disneyland compared to the politics of today. But, you know, we were not George W. Bush fans. I was not of the policy, and neither was she. And we wrote Dear Mr. President, and I was just riffing off this. And then she started with Dear Mr. President. And the joke when we were writing it, because you have to remember the era, is like she would start saying Dear Mr. President, and I would be like the Secret Service would be at the door like at any given time. And throughout the writing process, we'd be like, open the door, please. But that's also Dear Mr. President, another example. And she grew up obsessed with the Indigo Girls, and I'm a huge fan. And they wound up doing the record with us, and we've all stayed friends. And actually, the Indigo Girls, and Emily in particular, for artists that have come up, or bands, like I signed this group called Daisy the Great as a publisher, and called Emily, and wound up them going on tour. And this is a few years ago, and of course now they're blowing up, which they're great. And part of what makes them special is that they have a very distinct, they have a voice, they know who they are, they know who they stand for. I think more and more, because the volume there's so much volume, that's what we're gonna find with the artists that cut through, is that they're really gonna have an identity that's gonna penetrate the marketplace no matter how crowded it is.
So when you're home alone behind your piano or with your guitar, what's the one song that you've written that you play just for your own enjoyment?
Oh, that's such a good question, Mitchell. It's painful. It knows, honestly, it's like, it's such a good question because every songwriter or artist, they have their like go-to. I play piano and guitar, and both songs that I go to were never released.
Doesn't matter.
And one is like on the piano is this sort of F sharp major 7 Joni Mitchell-y thing, which I wrote a song to and never actually finished, but it's a great way for me to just sort of feel the landscape of a piano. And then there's a song, prepare for the name drop. There's a song that I wrote with Carole King. Let me get that for you. I mean, honestly, wow. Working with Carole, working with Burt Bacharach, working with Daryl Hall, working with Graham Lyle, Art Garfunkel, like I've had this like, I go into those rooms and I will clear the place of any scraps left on the floor and shove them in my pocket and go home. But what I wrote with Carole, which I remember because it's my noodle go-to, and I'm sure I'll screw it up, but I don't remember, the melody was, she was singing to the melody of the guitar part, and to this day I don't remember what it is, but it's... Anyway, it goes like that. Wow. Of course, I'm all Butterfingers with it, but I feel like every time I write another song, I'm nervous about the process of doing it. And I'm glad that I haven't lost that. I'm very confident in it because it is a confidence game.
Yeah.
You get in a room and you got to be like bold.
Isn't it great that you're still nervous? I mean, does that mean you care?
Oh yeah, it's the best. The nervous part is like my 7-year-old has a saying. She's nerve-sighted. She gets nerve-sighted. It's like she's excited but nervous. By the way, no matter how big the artist is, no matter how successful they are, that little pregnant moment before they have to engage with another artist, they know they have to bring their gift with them. When I first opened for Sophie B. Hawkins, was like the first tour I did. This is a long time ago. And I didn't get a sound check on that tour. I had a line check, which basically like, I would go up on the stage, I'd plug the guitar in, Mike would check 1, 2, hello, New York, whatever, and just start playing. And then the sound guy would be dealing with it.
Isn't the opening act often the sound check?
Always.
And then I opened for Sting, and I just accepted the fact that I would just get a line check.
Yeah.
And I plugged in, I did the thing, and he was like, Sting was like, take as much time as you need because I need you to be the best that you can be because that's only going to make me, elevate me and elevate you. So take whatever time you need. And I was like, oh my God. But that concept, that confidence level, I think that's one of the things that you find, and I would say to artists, is don't be insecure. Like, believe that you are where you are with a purpose and celebrate other people. Don't wait until you're successful to then say that other people are great. Celebrate how great your peers are now. Don't wait for that. We can do a lot better, and I'm not saying it because I don't have moments of my own weakness where I'm so competitive and I want to dominate everything. But the truth is that, again, we've all been humbled. We're in an environment that's humbled us. I've never been more successful than when I started celebrating and evangelizing the success of other people, even when I have nothing to do with it. So, for whatever that's worth.